Okay. And we are live. Welcome, everyone, to this special episode of TNT Live. I'm Daniel Bordman. Wyatt is not with us this week. Instead, I have two special guests as we're talking a special topic, the Iran Revolution. A lot of you asked me, how do you, Whitey McWhite guy from Canada, get such knowledge about Iran? 80 to 90% of the answer is below me right now. Sia Sufi. Refugee extraordinaire. Sia spent time in some political prisons back in Iran during the Green Movement and came to Canada where we met. But that is a nice introduction of him. Instead, I will give his favorite introduction, which he has never had any problems with, is Sia is one of the top 30 traders of 2016, as listed by the IRGC. And with me is also Sana Ebrahimi, who's working really hard to make the top 30 traders 2022 on the IRGC's list.
You'll get there. You'll get there.
You'll get there. So Sia and I actually met doing stand-up comedy before we got into start yelling at the governments, all of them, all the ones we don't like. So still 99% of them. And Sana has become a minor celebrity in the NIAC circles as, you know, I guess the country's number one NIAC hunter and the exposer of Negro Mortis. So Sia, it's nice to see you. While I go and do some administrative work, give us a good background of, I guess, how you got into political activism, and as someone who spent a lot of time in Iran and was part of a revolution there, what do you see as the difference between this and the previous ones?
Well, the difference is obvious. Before we get into that, I want to hear about the story of how you basically exposed Negar Mortazavi, if you can get into that while Daniel's doing that thing. Yeah.
Sure.
Negar Mortazavi claimed there was a bomb threat where she was supposed to give a speech.
So she was invited for a speech, it was a talk at the University of Chicago. And when we were informed, we were like trying to, there was like a lot of people who were, of course, complaining. And we started like sending emails to the university and event planners and saying that, hey, this is not the right person you want to talk to when it comes to this situation in Iran. And we even sent them like evidence. Here is this talk, here is that news and all of this, and that's why we don't want her. What happened was that I think they were completely aware of that, and the university said that, okay, so one of the things that is like very core value for the University of Chicago, the politics department, is the freedom of speech. So they said that we can cancel this, but what we can do is add another speaker with a different point of view, and like have a panel, add a moderator, and then you can ask your questions. And that's what we can do to help you. And we're like, okay. So we can go, we can watch.
Yeah,
we can
one
listen.
is enough.
Yeah. And this was all promised until the day of the event, which is October 18th. October 18th, I received an email because I registered for the event. You could get an like admission for as like someone who doesn't have any affiliation with the University of Chicago. So I received an email saying that just in order to have a constructive discussion, we want to move the event to virtual, because they knew that like a lot of people are going to be there.
Yep.
So they moved everything to virtual, and then they said that we are going to send you an email at 3. The event was like at 3:30. They said, okay, we are going to send you an email at 3 and send you a link for Zoom. And then at 3, the email that I received was a link that when I clicked, you went and asked me for my affiliation with the University of Chicago. So basically, they even eliminated the general admission. So if you're not out of the University of Chicago, you cannot go. And they didn't even let us in. So a lot of people were not allowed to be there. And then, well, people were not happy. The only thing that they were allowed to do was go in there, just be present outside of the building and protest. So, of course, that day I went there, and a lot of other people, friends, they were there. Reporters, police, everything seemed very normal. It was like a normal protest. It was nothing calm. Police was there just to watch. Um, and then we went back. It was done. Of course, we couldn't even see it because it wasn't even a live video for us to watch. They said we're gonna put it on YouTube later, so we weren't even able to watch it as like live. Um, so after that, of course, the things that she always say, not unexpected, whatever.
She was the first, just to explain, she is a mouthpiece of the Islamic Republic in Western media. She was the one who said the flights that the IRGC shut down, it was like a first she said it was a technical difficulty and all sorts of things. Basically, she is the mouthpiece of the regime in Western media.
Well,
And
to be
they
fair, it
use
was a
her-
technical difficulty. It was technically difficult to fly a plane. with
Yeah.
two
Yeah.
This is
Sorry, go ahead.
And she even continued with praising the IRGC for being so transparent and
Yeah,
sending out an explanation.
God bless them.
Yeah. After that, it was like October 18th. We were mad, we were upset, but like it ended, and we're like, okay.
Did we lose Santa for a second?
What happened?
I think Negar Mortazavi got into the computer into this. So, in layman's terms, for the Canadians watching, I'll let you continue. But the Islamic Republic has a very complicated propaganda network in the West. They have let's say their id, like they have Press TV, whose job is it to be like, the Islamic Republic is great, the Taliban is great, everything that is wrong is because of the
Press
Jews.
TV is the official organ of the Islamic Republic. But they have people in New York Times, they have people in Nyack, in the Independent, in many other
Reuters.
outlets. Reuters, Facebook, a lot of Facebook middle management fact checkers, and I'm still shadow banned.
Twitter.
From the day after the revolution started, I got shadow banned for a post in 2020. And I'm still
Okay, send me a message later, because I have friends at Facebook that I can connect you with.
Okay. Ooh, getting stuff done here. Yeah, so to say, there's the crazy regime shows, the Press TV ones, like everything is the fault of the Jews, the Islamic Republic is great, we're going to bring apart the apocalypse, Imam Mehdi's coming back, it's going to be a great time, no singing and dancing. But then they have their suit-wearing faction, the Nyack, Quincy Institute, Trita Parsi, Negar Mortazavi, these people whose job it is to say, as people who want peace and stability, and we're anti-imperialist, here's why we want to give the Islamic Republic billions of dollars through the Iran deal.
And a nuclear weapon. Basically, what they do is they water down what the regime officially says. Okay? The regime officially puts a clock in the middle of a square in Tehran that says this is the clock to destruction of Israel, 20 months. And then they come on TV, Negar Mortazavi and her friends come on TV and say, these are just symbolic acts, just trying to show that they're not afraid, and because Israel is probably going to attack. That's how they talk. That's how they flip the script. That's all they do.
Yeah, that's essentially what we're dealing with is the thing. So what we got back to, this one at the height of the revolution, this woman Negar Mortazavi, who pretends to be this exiled journalist, which is another game the regime plays, is they'll arrest certain people in their country.
Oh, it took us years to figure that out.
Yeah, so they can have this sort of cover of like, oh, this was a dissident journalist, right? So they arrest you, then they release you, you come to the West, and you have this clout of, I'm an exiled journalist. Listen, as a critic of the regime, I say we need to give them billions of dollars. And there's a few people who play this game. so Negar is one to them. And so so she had scheduled this event to be an expert of the revolution, and people were of course upset because she is not on the side of the revolutionaries. She's quite, I mean, her career has been propagating.
Disgusting. Yes. Now, sorry, continue.
So everything was normal. On October 19th in the morning, Negar Mortazavi tweeted something, and her reference was like a link to a student magazine. There was an article saying that there was a bomb threat yesterday at Institute of Politics, and that was the reason that the event went virtual. And Negar Mortazavi started like attacking Iranian diaspora. It was like, oh, this is how educated people are. They're threatening me to like kill me, this and that. This is a like campaign, harassment, whatever.
Woe is me.
They like playbook.
I'll translate it for the Americans. Negar Mortazavi would be their equivalent of Taylor Lorenz, Canadians' Rachel Gilmore. It's the all criticism of me is not valid harassment, right?
Yeah. If you criticize me in any way, you're harassing me. That's basically what she says. So I saw that, and this started like going viral, and I was like, how is that even possible? Because as someone who lives here as a student, anything that happens in Chicago, especially related to the university, we receive a message, receive a text, receive an email, based on what you choose, saying that, hey, this time and this place is not safe, so don't go there. We will keep you updated. And then they will like update you. And this goes like something as simple as, oh, there is this liquid on the ground in that street. Don't go there. Or like there's a cable on the ground. It could be dangerous. Don't go there. So like for something like a bomb threat, they would evacuate a building, inform all the students, all the staff, and this would go viral on like all the local news stations. But I noticed, like, I started looking it up. Nowhere, absolutely nowhere covered such news about like U Chicago. And I started asking students who were at U Chicago. I was like, hey, did you receive any message yesterday? They said, no, nothing. I was like, they say there was a bomb threat, and everyone was shocked. Like, I was communicating with people at the University of Chicago, and we were all shocked, not only because we were there that day and no one, like, nothing seemed abnormal. They didn't like tell us, hey, evacuate this place is dangerous. It's a threat.
How did you figure it out, though? How did you figure out that it was a hoax? Absolutely.
Okay. This made me very suspicious. And I was like, okay, there is no way that this happened. Especially that the email that we received was like, hey, to have a constructive discussion. And, I noticed this pattern of like, oh, she tweeted something, and after her Nayak, everyone, they started attacking Iranians. Oh, these are like, see, these are the people who are protesting. These are like the people like war. They are warmongers. They are like violent. They're this and that. And I was like, no, there's no way. And I even quoted her tweet. And I said, hey, I know that you're lying, and I promise that I will prove it to you. And I started like talking to friends at U Chicago, following up, and this went on for like 1 or 2 days. And then I was like, okay, it doesn't hurt. Let me just call the university police, because these are public information. They have to tell you. I was like walking to school. I called and I was like, hey, this is like, and is this what happened on October 18th around this time? Did you receive like a bomb threat call or something like that? And the officer was shocked. Like, she was like, what? Bomb threat? And I said, yes. She said, okay, wait a second. And then I was on hold, and then she came back. She was like, no, there was no such a thing. There was no bomb threat, man. And
Chicago, for some reason, it seems like there's something in the water. People want to do hoaxes there.
yeah,
I mean, what I like that was one of the first memes I made. You would have been proud. I made a Nega Mortis V meme of like, what was it? And then they came at like there I was leaving Chicago at 2 a.m. And then like two monarchists came up behind me.
Yeah, yeah.
And they yelled, "This is Pahlavi country," and like I was scared. So this is. I'll just make an administrative thing. I put the article about this bomb threat hoax in the chat. If you're watching on Twitter, you can't do that on Twitter, but I did in Twitter put in the chat a link to the YouTube where you can go watch it there and get that and comment along. So on that theme of comments that we should take seriously from people, June D. Jensen asks, what about the 15,000 protesters about to be executed? Apparently the government just voted yes to this. Is this true? I think to understand, explain to me how the government works. I think you can.
Yeah, the parliament doesn't vote to execute anybody. Okay, that was just a show of solidarity. That all of the parliament, there is basically the chants that people were always doing, no reformist, no fundamentalist. They're all the same. All of the parliament came out condemning the protests and said basically the regime should capital punishment, the harshest punishment possible. They didn't say how many people. They just said basically, but with people who are doing this stuff, the rioting, the regime should punish them harshly. But the parliament doesn't order executions. It was just a show of solidarity.
What I think is that, well, see, the situation in Iran, the government in Iran is not a normal government. It's not like you think, oh, it's going to be a court and then they go through this legal process, this and that. No, this government is a government that has executed thousands of people back in the day. And it is capable of doing that again.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just saying this 15,000 people that the parliament basically, the news came out that the parliament said execute them. That's not how it goes. The system goes in a different way, but they have killed before. They have killed thousands in weeks, prisoners. So it's not that they won't do it. It's just that news came out, and then a lot of regime mouthpieces jumped on it that, oh, it's a hoax, and it was like, no, it was just badly reported.
Yeah, exactly. Because like, okay, there are almost 15,000, if not more, people arrested, and we know that they're capable of doing this. And now that like they are saying all together that we're going to execute them, there is a chance that they actually do it. So
basically that show of force was like, there is not a single division. There is nobody that says within the regime that says, well, maybe. There's nobody. We're all in it to win it until the end.
Yeah, and for people like Sia did a great job explaining this to me back in the day. You were talking years ago. Like the whole thing is a complicated, fake democracy anyway.
It's a Ponzi scheme.
it's a fun, but it's all controlled by the supreme leader anyway, and the Ayatollah through a mechanism called the Guardian Council, which he appoints himself. So there, it is one organ, and like, so when we talk about fundamentalists or reformists, this is the two sides of the propaganda they use, right? Prestige, as I mentioned, that'd be fundamentalist, whereas NIAC, Quincy Institute, Negar Mortazavi, all these names we're bringing up, they're the reformists. They're the mullahs in a suit, let's say.
Yeah.
And for a long time, the way they've tricked the Western world is they've installed hardline government presidents, like the current one, Raisi, who was part of the mass executions in 1988. So he's done it before. Versus Rouhani, who is a reformist, so benevolent and peaceful. He only executed a few thousand.
The head of the regime's security for 20 years, Rouhani, is now a reformist. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But that's the interesting thing, though. I look at these protests. The first question you asked about what's the difference?
Yeah.
It's gradual. Okay, it's like dipping your toe in the water. Okay, first we had in what was it, '99? We had the student movement in Tehran. There was riots. There was shootings, but it was just the university. It didn't spread out to society at all. The society didn't know what was going on. And then it was the teachers, then it was the workers, then it was different groups, different times came out and started basically protesting. In 2000, I would say 16, 17, it was the first time that it became kind of national a little bit. Suddenly spread out. It was supposed to be a controlled protest by the regime against Rouhani, by the other side of the regime that just basically it's a table that they're fighting over. It's not like, oh, who's going to help the people? No, it's just a table they're fighting over. I want to have more. So some groups in the regime started a protest against Rouhani, but it got out of control and it just spread. People were like, oh, there's a protest there and nobody's shooting them. And it just went crazy. And then 2017, it happened. 2018, 2019 was the biggest. 100 cities, small towns with like 20, 30,000 people had like 4 or 5 killed. And it was like, what? They never come out. Everybody. And 2019 was the last one. They chanted all the stuff that we're supposed to. Yeah. Reformists, fundamentalists, your game is over. No to Gaza, no to Lebanon, my life for Iran, and no to Islamic Republic. Every single foundation of the regime, they attacked it in 2019. So when 2022 came, I basically, basically people came out in the street, they looked at each other and was like, yeah, all right. We're doing this because they know they're going to get killed. A lot of them are going to get killed. So when you get in it, you have to get in it. And this is not going to go away.
Yeah. I think that's a good, that's a pretty good explanation of the evolution of this. And the what I've been really like, well, what's made it sort of like, okay, it's go time for me is the videos of unarmed protesters, charging armed besieges with guns and being like, all right, well.
Yeah, that first time ever. That's when the regime's authority crumbles, when people are not running away from the guy with the gun. There's like a video, it's like Benny Hill, like 40 agents running that way, and like 15 seconds later, 40 of them are running that way, and people are It's like you should have just put a play in music.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's exactly what I feel is the biggest difference. See, like I moved to the US 3 years ago. So I was like, I saw a lot of things there. And then when I moved here right after that, Bloody November happened. But see, that was like the first time that the government started like shooting like that at people and killing them like that. That was the first time. And
the lowest count is 1,400 in 3 days. The lowest count.
Yeah, a minimum. And then, but still, people were not like, people would try to defend themselves, but they wouldn't attack.
They wouldn't attack, exactly. When they would grab somebody, people would be like, hey, don't kill him. Don't like.
Exactly.
Because killing is hard, man. Killing takes away something from you. When you decide, okay, I have to. It's a huge step for a people to decide we have to, I guess. So until 2019, they were still like, hey, don't kill him. Don't attack.
I can say like, still, I think until 2019, like before Bloody November happens, there were still some people who believe that reform can happen.
Yep.
But then that happened. They were like, okay, no way.
No, that completely ended it.
Yeah, that completely it was an end. And then now the people who are coming out are the people who have seen and experienced Bloody November, and with all that, they decided to come out.
Yep.
This is not this. This is huge.
And
Like
I think
knowing that you can get killed.
Yeah,
It's
that's
so-
one of the problems I have with people online who keep sharing these sad stuff with sad music. And I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, I get that you're in pain and you're here and you can't do anything, but they need anger. They knew they were going to get shot. Okay? Everybody who goes there knows they don't need sympathy and sadness. They just need you to push them and give them your anger and help them with your anger.
Yeah.
That's why I started the Basiji Lives Don't Matter movement to help push the things along. Yeah, I think I'm going to go to this from the chat, because if I answer this one, we're going to be here for another 57 hours.
Mhm.
But can one of the two of you explain the left's unwavering support for the Iranian government, often as dumbfounded by it?
Would you like to take it or should I?
Do I?
Okay. The thing about the left, the revolution in Iran happened because socialists in Iran taught the fundamentalists how to organize and how to demand a revolution. Fundamentalists in Iran didn't want revolution, didn't understand it. Khomeini, until 73, 74, never says a bad words against Shah even. He still calls him His Majesty. Why? Because he didn't have that. Then some socialist students go see him, talk to him. They say, no, we can't do revolution. You have network and everything. So socialists love a good revolution, as we all know. And Michel Foucault famously called Islamic Revolution the first postmodern revolution.
Deploy Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, we're moving past it. But that's the thing. The left in the West mistakes two things. Some of them have woken up to the bad stuff that's going on in the West. A lot of the bad things that are happening, a lot of the nasty things that the West has done, a lot of to other countries and within its own country. So a lot of people have become very cynical against their own government. And indirectly, any country that attacks their countries, the West, they kind of feel sympathy for some reason. I've talked to a lot of people and they say, yeah, this is true. And I'm like, yeah, maybe these things are true, but there's also all of these that they don't talk about. So there is that sympathy that this revolution came from the coup, that joke, that it came from that coup, even though the fundamentalists hated Mossadegh, the religious hated Mossadegh, and this revolution, they didn't allow a street after Mossadegh's name until 15 years ago.
Can we debunk the Mossadegh coup? Because a lot of people still believe in this thing.
You want to get me killed?
All right, I'll get me killed. All right?
Okay.
So sidebar, a lot of you have heard that, and I call this my general theory on the left and totalitarian regimes. It's the Noam Chomsky theory, where Noam Chomsky is the founder of the left-wing White Lives Matter movement, right? Or white power movement, essentially. This is what I call left-wing white power. And what I mean by this is the way you determine the mental state of any of the brown people or non-white people in the world is you go back in history and you say, whenever there's a white person in that country, that is a determining factor in everything that plays out in that country. And the number one example of white power when it comes to the Chomsky is the coup against Mossadegh in 1953, which is blamed for, if when the regime kills children, and you take this to a socialist to say, well, the reason they're doing this is in response to British and American interference in 1953. However,
Khomeini started his movement in opposition to women voting.
Yes.
He didn't
start it to avenge Mossadegh. Okay? So Mossadegh wasn't elected. He was appointed by the Shah, right? Where do you think do you think the Shah just came out of nowhere? The Shah came to Reza Shah, the original, came into power around the First World War. His son is the one we're talking about here in 1953. Do you think he just like left and then like Mossadegh was elected and then he rode in on a horse because he didn't like socialism and the Americans told him to? No. Mossadegh had nationalized the oil industry without the means to support a nationalized oil industry, so the country went into poverty. People don't like being
the economy crashed
and burned.
crashed hard. And what happened was the same parliament that voted Mossadegh into office as the prime minister, he wanted more power because people were protesting in the streets, and he asked for more power from the parliament. And the parliament said no. So Mossadegh famously comes out of the parliament, Baharistan, comes in the middle of the street and says, that's not the parliament, this is the parliament. Very Ahmadinejad move.
Yeah.
But so it's the same parliament that voted him in, that made him prime minister. So he dissolves the parliament and until the next election. So what happened is in Iranian constitution at the time, when the prime minister dissolves the parliament, the king has the right to remove the prime minister, install an interim government until the election. That's a right of the king in Iranian constitution at the time. You can search it. It's there. So king does that because the country was going to crap. So he sends an officer to Mossadegh's house and delivers the thing to him that, hey, you are hereby removed from your office. And so Mossadegh orders that guy to get arrested. He throws that guy in jail, the messenger. And tomorrow he goes to his office, calls the cabinet and says, yeah, this has happened. I have been removed, but I'm not going. And several of his ministers just leave, including Minister of Justice, who was like, yeah, this is illegal. So he leaves. And several others, but several other hardcore, basically people who were around him were like, no, we're going to stay. And that's the story. Mossadegh took power illegally, basically refused to give power legally away. And for the 3 days, it was Mossadegh's coup that was in power. And Iranian army removes Mossadegh. Yes, there was one American involved helping with the planning, logistics, strategy. Okay, you basically helping with the thing. But Iranian army generals did everything. And they were planning it from way before Iranian generals because they knew what was going to happen. So that's the real story, but it doesn't serve any narrative.
So yeah, this is often used. Yeah, this is used as an excuse.
Story.
Yeah, so this is what like let's say reformist would use as an excuse to say, oh yeah, we all do things, and yes, the IRGC might be interfering in Yemen, but remember when the Americans and the British overthrew the democratically elected government in Iran, which everyone loved? They just lie, right? And this is a common lie that perpetrates every university, every Noam Chomsky lecture, and a lot of people on the right.
And I'm not saying the West hasn't done crap to Iran. They did a lot of Guadeloupe. Go search Guadeloupe, where the president of France sits down with the president of United States, Carter at the time, and Margaret Thatcher, and convinces them that Shah has to go.
Yeah.
And Khomeini is a liberal.
Yeah.
Who's going to go into his office and teach religion to people.
Yes. Back when the world was a lot more nice.
They did this to us. And Carter was a moron. If you read CIA's report on Khomeini at the time, go find this and read it. It's like a teenager with emotional problems wrote it. Like, Shah's really bad, and like Khomeini sounds like a good guy. And it's like, who? I honestly, like, before these, like in the past few years, my mind really shifted on CIA and all their, like, I thought they knew everything, and then I read the reports and I'm like, what?
Yeah, people often are. I find that's the biggest red pill to me is when you find out the people in charge of the deep state aren't that smart. Like when you're like, what's it like? This is why I don't take much of the people yelling at the deep state too seriously. Is because they're like they're going to do this and they know, and Justin Trudeau's in on it, and
No,
Klaus
they
Schwab. Like these people are morons. These people are morons. And if you think Justin Trudeau's in on it, then this is a plan concocted by Justin Trudeau. So I'm not scared of it. Like, yeah, they still want you to eat bugs and use solar power. I get that. But like you're not dealing with like
No.
some sort of super genius. You're
No,
dealing
and
with
France's reason was the same as the reason they removed Gaddafi. Energy and money, because Shah was the one who started OPEC.
Yeah.
In 1978, I think, or 6.
No, it would have been 60 because the OPEC oil crisis is 73, 74 over the
Okay, early 70s, I think.
Early 70s.
I'm not good with dates. It was early 70s, but
It would
he
be,
starts
late
OPEC.
60s, early 70s would have been its start
Yeah,
because
it was
the crisis was triggered by the war.
It was a direct response to the Western technology monopoly and how they would sell. Like there's an interview, Shah actually talks about it. That is like, hey, you're deciding the price of oil. And it was like, yeah, but any technology we're buying, you're choosing arbitrary prices on it and selling us like several times more than it actually should be. So this is our way of basically leveling the playing field. And OPEC was one of the reasons. He was really changing Middle East into something else.
Yeah, it is a real shame that we got, Khomeini. Although his writings on when to fornicate with a camel are very enlightening, if you're wondering.
Yeah, dude.
Don't
knock it until no.
I mean, where else would we get the wisdom that after you have sex with the camel, to not sell that meat in your own village, but a different village? This
40
is
kilometers. 40 kilometers.
40 kilometers. See, if I would have thought just 20. But that's why I'm this evil Zionist.
That's why you should read.
That's why I should
read books, man. Read books.
Guys, go on Amazon.com. Read the Ayatollah's book. Learn which animals you should and shouldn't have sex with and how.
The traditions, the rituals before and after. But see, like, what is so astonishing to me is that how they changed the narrative completely and then started brainwashing children at school since like the beginning.
Yep.
That's how, like, I did not have any idea about like a lot of things that I know now by the end of my high school, because I was completely brainwashed. I was completely brainwashed to think that like, oh, Mossadegh was such a loved person and like Khomeini was so...
Nobody came out in his support. Nobody talks about it. 2 years before, when they removed him, hundreds of thousands came into the streets. Yeah. When they removed him second time, not a single person came. And he had declared martial law, by the way. But yeah, go ahead.
Like no one thinks that there were a lot of groups. Like one of the things that I think it's underrated is how MEK affected this whole revolution, because they were the first group who started like the whole armed conflicts, like killing people like against Pahlavi. And they had a lot of influence on this. And then Khomeini, what he does, like right after comes to the office and like takes the power, completely eliminates all of them.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. I mean, like we don't like Khomeini. The only good thing he did is he did kill all the socialists and MEK people.
Hey, man, come on. But no, the thing is, dude, a lot of the MEK kids, they were like 14. They were arrested for passing out flyers. They weren't ideologues. They didn't know shit. They arrested them. They kept them in their prison. And in 88, they were just like, hey, you know what? These ones need to be executed. 4,000 lowest count in a span of a summer. Prisoners who none of them had death sentence. So yeah, but Khomeini, what they did was in 3 years after the revolution, they completely emptied the country of every politically active group. They shut down the universities. immediately for 3 years for Cultural Revolution. So all the students are gone. They shut down Mujahideen, MEK, and they started to go after socialist groups. And socialist groups, one by one, would sell each other out to get closer to the regime in the hope of, yeah, they're going to keep us. And it's like, no, they're not. They're just going to get rid of you. And so that's why you see a 10-year silence, absolute silence in Iran's space, because they killed everybody or they escaped, and the rest went to war and died, all the youth.
Yeah. And they used the cover of the Iran-Iraq war to execute more people. So,
Yep.
I mean, it's nearly impossible to get an official body count on who died because of what, because, you know,
Yeah.
you use the cover of one of the most brutal wars in human history to execute your own people. It's pretty easy to then fudge the numbers and say they died on the battlefield. You know, especially in the pre-digital age, you have these problems. So let's
What
fast
were you
forward.
saying, Sana? Sorry, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I want to say like they mostly kill them at nighttime, and then they buried their bodies like all together. They
Without telling their parents.
they killed them all like in a group, and then buried their bodies. And like you think we know, but a lot of people, non-Iranians, they think like this has just started, but that has been like this since the beginning. Like the torture in jail,
It was just such a
in the
horrific shock to people that it basically, as I said, and they killed so many of the youth that it just went silent. But that horror remained, and people never forgot. They charged those parents for the bullets, by the way. That was the coolest part.
Yeah, I mean, it's standard. I mean, horrifying, but it's totalitarian takeover. It's, you know, you start a new regime and you.
And yeah, in 80, I think 81, 80, late 80, I think, or 81 was the mandatory hijab that came with Rouhani. President Rouhani, the reformists, started it in government buildings and pushed it. And gangs started to roam the streets, and whoever didn't have a hijab, they would just attack. And the chant was Ya Rusari, Ya Tusari. Basically, either a hijab or a smack in the head. So that's how they did it.
So, yeah, I think because a lot of people, I think it's a good point to sort of to extend into today, because a lot of people are going to dishonestly sell this anti-hijab rally that is going on. Right? Whereas, you know, I think a lot of us try and say like, no, it's full on revolution. But there is something to the
people in the streets started literally 2 weeks after started to chant hijab faqat bahane ast asl nizam nishan ast. Basically, hijab is just an excuse. The regime is the target. People in the streets of every city started to chant it, and they still were going outside. Yeah, hijab and the women, and okay.
Yeah, that's the apologists who say, "Oh, this is Islamophobia." Oh no.
Yeah. Oh, the Islamophobia argument was pretty, and that the same thing is the reason why a lot of the Arab countries in the region are silent. They're kind of worried.
They're kind of worried on that too. I mean, one of the propaganda things from the beginning was Islamists would defend the revolution, not by saying I side with what the regime is doing. They would do the whataboutism, and the classic whataboutism is like, why are so many people only mad when Iran enforces the hijab, but not mad when countries like France or India do things against the hijab? Like, right? So it's like basically saying, you know, laws in France and laws in Iran are the same, but you're Islamophobic for only supporting one side of it, which is like another it's obviously absurd on its face. The one thing I do want to get into, maybe for a bit of sophistry here, but do you think the regime could survive if it took the mandatory hijab law away? Because
it already has. It already has. The regime, after the win against Wales, the official IRNA, the Iranian, the government's news agency.
IRIB, right?
That's the state TV and radio.
Yeah.
their official news agency published a few photos, like people celebrating in the street for the World Cup win. And in some of those photos were women without hijab. So the regime is already signaling, see, hijab. There's no hijab. Like, no.
Yeah. Okay. So, because I mean, the argument there would be that the hijab is such a visible symbol of the regime. It's also a functional symbol of totalitarianism. It gives the excuse for the regime to be in every aspect of your life, to dominate your women and provide subservience to them. That
Yeah, but
in a
that's
way would
yeah, exactly. That's one of the arguments that's been made. Sorry, continue.
no. I think that was near the end. It's like this is the sort of
Yeah,
right.
I heard some lady say something really disgusting. It was like, yeah, men in Iran have been uh, basically accessories to this. They've basically said nothing. As if men in Iran were happy when their sisters or mothers or daughters were being taken away and they can't do nothing in the face of a 19-year-old with a gun. Like men were happy. And also, I remember getting my jeans razored. Boys would get arrested for short sleeves in the street. They would get arrested for wearing jeans. There every once in a while there was a period that they would just throw these crazies in the street and they would attack and grab anybody. If you had a weird hair, they would grab you and take you. Everything. Everybody took it from this regime.
Yeah.
Women on a different level also.
Like to this day, men cannot wear like shorts in the street or like, yeah, like they can't. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
it's sort of like I was thinking, like I was writing something the other day and I was thinking about this. That's exactly how it is. Like this is a symbolic, like this is symbolic. They use women to like show their power, show their control over people. But that's how it is for everyone. Like for every human being in Iran, they are oppressive towards anyone. Like no matter, regardless of your gender. But like
I was lashed, okay, for walking in the street with a girl. Lashed, okay? It's ridiculous when you think about it. It's like, really. But yeah, that's why I was able to write jokes and stuff about it, because otherwise you go crazy. But it's the stupidity of thinking it was just one-sided, like, oh, this ethnic group or that ethnic group or that religion or this religion or women or everybody in every way imaginable. Anybody who wasn't exactly on the same page as the regime was taking it every day.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, so let's bring this to where this is sort of important to the West and plays into something that we've all been involved in, which is the crossover between what we've called like these reformist Nayakis and let's say Western different political ideologies, where you have them not just infiltrating the highest reaches of government. So you could say on a policy level, Vali Nasser and Barbara Slavin, to essentially regime assets, were in the Obama administration, got and pushed for the JCPOA or the Iran deal, and got.
She literally had a photo with Raisi right before he went back.
Both of them did.
Yeah.
Both Slavin was caught in the same room, and Vali Nasser, there's a picture of him leaving the hotel of this. So that's like the highest level it gets to, like the Obama administration, and you have same kinds of people, Robert O'Malley, Ned Price, in the.
Oh boy, O'Malley, have you seen his positions change? Iranians really did a number on him.
I mean, they went from terrible to
appeaser of the regime. He was the biggest appeaser of the regime. He was the planner behind Obama's deal with the regime. And when he came, everybody was like, "Oh God, the regime's gonna get another 100 billion." And now he's like, "No, it's not acceptable."
Yeah. So he still hasn't done anything good, but he's been there. But I think there's another thing of like, okay, the question I guess is, why do you guys think it's so important to fight these Nayakis, to stop, like, Negar Mortazavi just had another appearance at UCLA, and Santa was not happy, let's say.
Was canceled.
Why would you say it's important? Do you have reasons other than it hurts the Iranian people? Like, can you make the case for any utility to the Western world to stop these reformist infiltrators?
Yeah. See, like, the reason that, like, people in society, like non-Iranian communities, have no idea of like how bad it is and the extent of things and how it is really, are these reformists that have had like so much influence, power, media. And then when that happens, like one way or another, it's going to affect the policy and politicians. And just keep that in mind, that a lot of Democrats have been backing them up throughout years. And if you go like read about it, if you go like look through their funders, the foundations like Plusher Foundations, Rockefeller Brothers, if you go see that, and then from there you go to like so many branches of Democrats, different organizations that we've never heard of, and those have been supporting this organization for so long to like hold the power for them. And if they get discredited, and they are all doing that under the name of, oh, we are like a community, so we do community service.
They're the representatives of the community of Iranian Americans.
Exactly. And now they're doing everything under that name, right? Now, if they lose that, what is their use, right? If you lose that, your shield, what are you going to do? Like, people are renouncing you. People don't want you.
So they have to learn to code.
Yeah, they have to go.
They have to learn to code. But
things you're allowed to say now.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And there's also the level of people in Iran know Nayak now. Okay, people in Iran are way more aware of what's going on than I would give them credit for. I used to give them credit for, especially the youth, the last generation who grew up with internet, doesn't remember a world without internet. They are on it, man. So seeing Nayak get its ass handed to it, and also there's also another aspect maybe, that wrong solutions that are offered. Okay, there are talks like in where was it, Germany or where, they had the representatives of like 4 or 5 separatist groups, Iranian separatist groups talking, and it's like, so nobody else, just these guys? And it's like, that's the thing. Nayak could basically point a lot of Western governments to wrong directions.
And I think there's another thing where they make common cause with other groups that I would say have less than noble intentions, or maybe have fine intentions, but bad solutions, let's say, who like to portray themselves as representative of community X. So whether it be Black Lives Matter, people like Nayak bring out the worst in them, right? The progressive Jewish movement, J Street. These, like, however you Iranians feel about Nayak is the same way I feel about J Street. Like, rocket ship to the moon, to the sun. Like,
they've been working together.
They are working together because, undermining the Jewish community.
Code Pink also. Code Pink also.
Code Pink isn't like, but Code Pink is more like press TV of the progressive Jews. Like, Ariel, she's insane.
They have photos in Islamic republics. Basically, what was it? It was an exhibition for something, and they had gone to. They were the guests of Islamic Republic.
And it's just so funny that like these Nayaki people, they have like some core values, and they are like all the exact same as the core values that exist in Iran, like in the government in Iran, like anti-Semitism or whatever happens, it's Israel.
Yep.
It's Israel,
Guilty.
Saudis, it's that, like no one else. And
To be fair,
ridiculous.
WR
But
Winter is
they
on
do
me.
shave and wear bikinis and makeups. So
This is I
they're
use my
different.
Mossad mind control powers to take control of the CIA to inspire these color revolutions with Raython cloaking technology. I do hope this is
This
a
is
pretty.
not a color revolution, my friend.
I think this
Did you
guy's being
hear
funny.
anybody
I
talk
think
about any colors?
I
Yeah,
think
this
that guy's
was
being funny.
people just getting pissed off in every single city.
Yeah.
Color
Yeah,
revolution happens usually with the elite.
yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I don't think I think WR Winter. I think he's trolling on a high level, and he's being.
I'm not attacking him. I'm just saying color. It's actually a good question because a lot of people actually have that conspiracy theory that,
Yeah.
oh, it's just another WEF
Yeah,
or whatever.
that's what
And
I
it's
wanted
like,
to get.
no,
It's
dude,
like there's one,
WEF doesn't go to Boraz John and tell people to in the streets.
yeah, but I mean, the reason I brought that up is it's another thing where like the morons of all side will this is like the new moron talking point from more on the far right now, like the Jackson Hinkle, I'm a MAGA communist idiot, like he like make videos of like thousands of people protesting in California and be like, don't they know it's a CIA color revolution, blah blah, and it's like, how stupid do you have to be to think everything is like a CIA plot? Like the thing, it's like, do you not think the people inside the country might have like some idea of
Yeah, they're
like
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, but this is like one of the new propaganda things. But I want to bring that out because whereas the unhinged, what I like about the alt right is like there's no
okay.
filter.
This is
They
gonna
say
be
exactly
interesting.
what they want to say, and it comes out of their mouth, and it's unhinged, and everyone can see it's like this is
Oh yeah, they're open.
right. But Jackson Hinkle going like, this is all a CIA color revolution, his balcony. It's actually what Trita Parsi he'll go and he creates a think tank called Quincy to say like, well, people are upset and on the streets, but there is some interference going on. Like he'll do 3 paragraphs and add in some technical terms, but you distill what Trita Parsi and these Nikes say, and it actually is exactly what W.R. Winter sarcastically said is, oh, it's a CIA Mossad operation where they're just tricking the people into doing this. Like this is one of those things where you see in the
Another thing is that people seeing it in the media, and everything they see in the media, they are immediately kind of mistrustful. But the thing is, if this revolution hadn't reached TikTok, the media would have never covered it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the media is hijacked to the point that there was like no way that they get like true like face of like, okay, what's happening, a true picture of what's happening in Iran and why it's happening, because it's all hijacked by like people that we know. They're very well known.
Yep.
And
So when it reached TikTok directly, then the media had no excuse, and it went like 1 billion hashtags on TikTok or something. So it seeped into the culture. Now they had to talk about it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have.
Yeah, I mean, an important thing to bring up on this reformist thing is you brought
And
up
see, now they're not talking about it at all.
Yeah.
Really.
Like in 2019, Bloody November, when lowest estimate was 1,400 people killed in 3 days, right? Probably closer to about 5,000 in November but again, we have no way. I don't trust the IRGC.
Our friends in Iran Human Rights have 4,000 names.
4,000 names, right? So I've heard that number as well. So again, 4,000 verified by an organization, that's why I say probably closer to 5,000, just ballparking. Anyways, my point is, when asked about this, an IRGC commander asked why he was shooting protesters in the head. He responded, well, we're also shooting them in the legs.
Yeah.
To
be fair.
To be fair to the IRGC, they don't just murder people, they also maim them. Okay, so there we go. But the reformists at this time, if you look back at the reformist tweets, these people we've been bringing up, the Trita Parsis, Negar Mortazavis, when their people of Iran were being massacred by the regime, and not even violently protesting, basically peacefully, it wasn't like now where they're like, okay, we're fighting back. They were still, the reformists were tweeting pictures about, oh, look, Iran looks so beautiful in the winter, and the CIA coup, and like they didn't care one bit, and they were just distracting. They didn't take the side of the protesters. They either dismiss the protesters or deliberately obfuscated for
Well,
us.
that's why this time we served them a dish that they couldn't refuse with the women movement.
Exactly. And the
They
thing,
couldn't really not talk about women
And
when women.
then like someone like Negar Mortazavi goes on BBC and denies the number of people killed. Says, "Oh no, there's no actual number. What is their resource like for saying
Yeah,
thousands
my
of?"
handler hasn't given me any.
It's
God
like
Relief has not called me yet.
Yeah.
they even accused me, by the way, of being an Israel agent, being um,
Welcome to the club.
given direction by like Israel, Saudis, and things like that. It's just amazing.
In 2012, I was accused of so many things that it just didn't make sense. I was accused of being an Israeli and Saudi Arabian agent, and American and Mujahideen. And it was like,
Ooh.
no,
They
it
don't
just
add
doesn't
up.
work.
Yeah, it doesn't
Mujahideen is
work
on
like
the terror list in US at the time.
To clear things up, both Sana and Sia applied to Mossad. They were denied,
yeah.
so we sent them to the Saudis.
No, I took back my application. The hours are not good for me.
Oh yeah, we work them
Yeah,
hard.
the hours
You know.
don't work.
And
Yeah,
you have
they
to do a
said-
horror.
Yeah.
To me, they said, "Come back when your PhD is done."
Yeah, that was our thing to Sana, and she
Yeah.
needs to do bat mitzvah, right?
But you know what is funny? Like I was sitting on my bed, like my pajamas, and tweeting, and then Negar Mortazavi would like say, "Oh, this like,
Suddenly you like,
Israel like started the campaign of Ismir," and I was like, "Really, really, woman? Look at me. I'm a student. Like, how can
oh
you?"
man, I was when I was a refugee. I talked to the guy about how bad my finances was, and the next week he said, "Yeah, we're taking money from Israel," and I was like, "Me? Where?"
Yeah, please, if there's money, show me.
I literally was like, "Hey man, I
I
won't
found
say
that's
no."
always the best thing to do is just give into it. Like I
Yeah.
remember I stepped into the India Pakistan Kashmir debate a couple of years ago, and I had all these Pakistani trolls being like, "How much does India pay you to do this?" And I'd say, actually, 13% of India's GDP is directed towards my social media posts. If you're wondering, pretty sweet gig. Want to get on it? Like it's because they have no response. Like I find like people shilling for an evil regime don't understand humor on
Oh
any
no.
level. And
No,
like
it's very frightening. But there a lot of them are on Twitter and openly are shilling. And but one thing I wanted to mention. Hey, when I said like it's not that like the regime didn't hurt anybody, like a specific group. No, there were groups that the regime hit harder. Okay, like again, women went through harder shit because imagine in the summer in I don't know Ahwaz wearing all that stuff on you.
he's trying to say
In
Iran is hot.
50 degrees. In 50 degrees. The horror, the terror. Women don't have the right to divorce. They get the half the value in death of man, in inheritance of man, everything. So yeah, and there are like Sunni Kurds. Like when they were arresting us in university, they got the ones that had their names, like us nine who they had our names. They got us on the van, and then there was one guy left who wasn't one of us, who was a nerd, and he was like 18, but he looked older. And the guy asked him, "What's your name?" And he said his name, and the guy was like, "Are you a Kurd?" And he was like, "Yeah." He said, "Are you Sunni?" He was like, "Yeah." He said, "Get on the bus." It's like,
Yeah,
we were joking at the time. Well, I was joking at the time that he was our diversity arrest because we were from the north. But yeah, they do get it harder. But the response is some people come up with this made up stuff about these nations that are being subjugated, and it's like, no, there are no nations. There's one Iranian nation, and there are ethnicities who all of them have ruled this country at some point. From Sistan, Baluchistan, we've had Safar Lace, the first guy who rose up against the caliphate. From north, we have Ziaris, we have Alibouye, and on to goes to Nader Shah, who was a Kurd and one of the greatest military strategic minds that we've ever had. And he was Kurdish. So everybody has ruled this country, most of all Turks, actually. There is no like, oh, this guy has been subjugated by Iran. No, they all were part of it. They all ruled at some point. It was like every once in a while somebody else would rule. Sorry, I had to just mention that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point, because another thing the regime does, that if you get into these spaces and you're like, just a random Canadian American, whatever, and you're coming in, the regime itself pays a lot of the major separatists leaders to exist, because they want to use the fear of ethnic separatism as a domestic boogeyman.
That's their number one thing.
Yeah, that's their number one thing, is like, if you break it up, well, the entire country is going to fracture and do this. So you'll find, a lot of, I spoke to a Kurdish guy, last week, and I wrote an article on the war crimes that are being committed against them. And, the Kurdish region is getting it way harder than the rest. And number two would be the Balochistan region.
Balochistan, yeah.
But he was so insistent that they're not separatists, that they're fighting for all of Iran.
Yeah.
One, because he sees himself as Iranian, but two, the excuse that the regime is using when they raid house to house is they're looking for the separatist leaders from Iraq, which don't exist. And this is the excuse they use domestically to, oppress these people. So it's something that needs to be worth mentioning to new people here is, yeah, a lot of people come and spew this, what sounds like this sort of social justice-y, like ethnic discrimination.
They don't understand Iran's socio-ethnic, basically. I would say like Iran is the original multicultural country on earth in history, because since 2,500 years ago, it was the Pars tribe, then it was the Mad tribe, then it was the Pars tribe, then it was the Parthian tribe. All over Iran, different tribes considered themselves Iranians and ruled over this country one time or another. And any group that they took over, like Arabs moved to Iran 2,000 years ago, before Islam. Iranian Arabs in the south, 2,000 years ago, moved to Iran. Jews, I don't know, you know better.
It would have been after the destruction of the first temple.
Huh?
It was after the destruction of the first temple, around the time of the
2,500?
Sorry?
2,500 years, something?
Around 2,500 years, the time of Cyrus the Great. So it's actually at the founding of the
2,400, I think.
Yeah.
So like these like Iran, until the revolution, we had 100,000 Jews in Iran, in a Muslim country, the largest population in any other country around. But all these different groups are now being talked to as if they're not Iranian. They've been taken over by Iran. And it's like, no, they're all Iranian. Iran has an identity. It has had it. Arabs destroyed this country. Mongolians literally flattened it. And they couldn't destroy this identity. There was something there that Mongolians couldn't destroy it.
And see, like the ethnic killing, like Baluch people in the south, a lot of them don't have ID, government ID issued. So it's so easy to kill them without having any record of like how many people have been killed here. Don't know, because there's
God
no
knows.
record of this.
God knows. Courts, the kulbars, court kulbars, basically a job. It's a job in courts, that basically they take stuff, smuggling stuff in, because they have nothing. And they just shoot them. They use them as target practice. In, Baha'is, it's another group. Whenever they desire, it's like somebody kills that other guy, and it's like, yeah, he was saying some nasty, like infidel, heretic shit.
For Baha'is, is very scary. Like they have no right to like.
They basically Jews in Germany before the war.
1934, right?
Yeah, Jews during like Hitler.
Yeah.
It's like that. They arrest their like teachers who are having these like schools like underground.
because they're not allowed higher education, so they have to basically hire their own teachers to teach their children, and they arrest them. They attack those schools and and arrest them. And it's like, so what? What do you want this guy to do?
I know, like someone during, like when I was in a college, like someone that I knew and like we're friends, got like expelled from school only because of her religion.
Yeah,
And,
I mean,
I was literally told by the head of security that don't waste your time applying for higher education. Yeah, you're not.
You were Baha'i?
No, but we were arrested and imprisoned at the time, so he was like, yeah, don't waste your time. And the friend of ours who did waste his time and studied and all that, he didn't get any response. He was like, yeah, piss off.
It's
They
just
didn't let him in.
how many lives they have destroyed. Like my father, he was one of the first group of students who got into college after the 3 years of cultural revolution.
Yeah, revolution.
And there was like a written, like it was a written test, and then it was like those multi-choice test, like two different exams that you have to go through both, and
Yeah.
then you had to go through an interview, and then after the interview they would like do research about you and your
They
family.
will vet you. Yeah.
Yeah, like to see if you have like nothing with like
Families or something that has done something. Yeah. And if you look at the Shah's time, this evil monster, Iran has for 14 years, Iran has a economic growth of over 15. Do you understand what that even means?
4 is great. 4% is great.
15, dude. Some years 20. That's what this guy was doing. He was doing it a little fast. People were not ready for it, and this is the.
Yeah, like when you read your history, it just pisses me off. I don't even want to read those things.
Oh, and Iranians are now literally chanting, "Hey, we made a mistake." But
Yeah.
one interesting thing, I don't know if we want to go or what, but there's one interesting thing I want to talk about that, the mythology of every country, every group has a root in what their story has been over and over and over again in history.
Yeah.
Iranian mythology, one of basically after the great king Jamshid, who does great things, becomes full of himself and loses God's divine support. He is basically, the country is attacked by a foreigner, Zahak, and who has two snakes growing over his shoulders.
As one
And
does.
those snakes eat the brains of young men every night. One young man every night. Oh, let go of this. There's enough
Yeah, the
symbols.
symbols. We get it. Jordan Peterson. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, but what happens is this foreign guy comes, takes over, and then a blacksmith rises, named Kaveh, rises and starts a revolt and goes and finds the true king, and they come back and defeat this usurper. In our mythology, we have a popular revolution by a commoner. Okay, this is just our thing. We apparently do it a lot.
Yeah.
Imagine in 120 years, we've had 3 revolutions: constitutional revolution, Islamic revolution, and now this one.
And they pretty much had the same pattern.
Yeah, and you don't have that in anywhere else. 3 revolutions in 120 years.
Yeah.
It's just our thing, man. We just get excited, we make a mistake, and then we're like, okay, let's
fix that. Let's fix that. Do you think there's a good chance of the reinstitution of the Pahlavi dynasty, or do you think it will go towards
There's a
Republic?
lot of stuff. Yeah, like Pahlavi is the name, the only name that is being chanted in the streets, not about everybody, but the only actual name that people chant in the streets is Pahlavi. Nobody's chanting for Maryam Rajavi and MEK. Nobody's chanting for, I don't know, Masih Ali Nejad. I respect them, but they don't chant their names. They don't chant as minors. But there is one person that they chant, not everybody again, but the only one that has been chanted, and that's Pahlavi.
Bordman.
He has done no mistakes politically. He speaks 3-4 languages, and he's hung out when he was like a teenager. He's hung out with, I don't know, Nixon, and sat down, basically hung out with heads of states. This guy has been breathing politics and international politics and everything his whole life. So he is very qualified, and people still love the time of Pahlavi. There's a saying in Iran that Iran has 4 times: present, past, future, and Pahlavi's time. Everybody always says like, Pahlavi's time it was like this, Pahlavi's time it was like that. So,
Yeah, I think Pahlavi is the most like the favorite, like one of the most favorite out of all the governments that we've had in like 200 years.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And the only problem is a lot of the older generation and lefties and stuff, they're still fighting the 1979 revolution. They still believe, like MEK, like they still believe that the revolution was good. It was just misdirected and taken over, usurped by bad guys, as if like they were the good guys.
Yeah.
So that's the problem that we're
and
having. And Pahlavi has openly said, hey, I'm not going to have any expectation. I'll just be the voice until a government establishes and we do elections. Then if people vote that they want constitutional monarchy, okay. If they don't, okay, goodbye. I might run for president. I just want to help. I just want to serve this country. It's like, they're still like, but your daddy, like, and it's like, yeah, his dad threw basically Islamists, fathers of ISIS, and communists who were supporting Stalin in prison. What a bad guy.
Yeah, that's the thing.
See, like Pahlavi has the biggest support from the people, and it's the most legit opposition. Like they are known, they've been in power, they have a resume. No one is like Pahlavi.
Oh, no. The dude, literally every time he goes on another foreign TV and he speaks another language, and I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I've been quite impressed with. He's inside a pretty tight box, and he's been able to maneuver quite well.
And I have been critical of him because in my mind, I was like, he's not taking charge and blah blah blah. But then when I got more into it, I was like, oh, he's being a king. A constitutional king doesn't jump in political fights and this group and that group and stuff. They just, if they agree on him, he will basically do something. But he's not gonna jump in and be like, yeah, let me rule you. And like, of course, he's being very actually regal.
Yeah.
That's so.
Yeah, and I wasn't a fan. And originally, I wasn't a monarchist. I became one.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, so this is a question I'll bring up from the chat. I'll bring up all legitimate questions. Someone's asking about the history of the mullahs, but I think that's less interesting. So
mullahs have a very long history in Iran.
Yeah, and that's a hard one. That one's just a lot hard to go over.
Yeah.
So if the Islamic Republic regime does not cooperate with the mechanism defined by the UN Human Rights Code, except to condemn this kind, what else can they do? So it's like, I think this person is asking, like, what, I think your intention is like, what can the United Nations do?
Nothing.
Yeah, and the answer is nothing. If you're talking about boots on the ground, they've never done it before, and that requires, if it does happen, the consent of Russia and China, 2 of the regime's allies. So get that out of your mind. The United Nations can send a semi-automatic, highly strong worded letter. But other than an assault letter,
Really, just a letter?
I mean, they can. I mean, it's strong word
Okay,
statement.
now one thing that I have a problem with is Israel.
Okay.
Israel used to blow up a lot of shit for the regime right before this revolution happened, and literally everybody was like, awesome. Whenever we had heard, like, oh, this missile factory blew up, awesome. Suddenly they all stopped.
Yeah. So
Some people are now basically conspiracy theories are coming that Israel needs a crazy regime like Iran. The hardliner, basically the far right in Israel, needs a crazy regime to basically push its agenda.
The counter
I
to
don't
that
know.
is,
I'm hoping Netanyahu proves us wrong. I've been a fan of the guy, so we'll see.
from my contacts is the Israelis don't want to keep these. They see the destruction of the Islamic Republic as a security need, and they understand that they can't play hot potato forever because eventually the regime gets a nuke, and then all hell breaks loose. The answer to this, from what I know of the Israelis, is one, they don't want to be accused of trying to control the revolution, that this is an Israeli revolution, and they don't want to be caught with any clandestine operations inside of Iran right now, because then they would see that as potentially undermining the movement. However, they have stepped up attacks on the IRGC
in
outside
Syria
of
and stuff.
in Syria, and it was quite shocking because a couple months ago, they actually, in the middle of the revolution, admitted to striking Syria. Like, one of the games they play in Syria is the reason they could strike them in Syria is because the Islamic Republic pretends that they're nowhere else in the world.
Yeah.
For some reason. Like,
yeah.
they'll
and Israel attacks those troops, and then they're like, what troops were attacked?
Exactly.
I don't know. I saw that. What is that? Is that a plane?
Yeah.
Is that Superman?
Soleimani took a vacation to Syria and suddenly got bombed and died.
So they've played this little game where, like, Israel bombed Syria. How many Syrian soldiers died? 0. Who died?
Some Iranian contractors.
Some Iranian contractors. And Israel says, wasn't us, right? But they actually admitted that, we're striking Syria now to hit IRGC points, and like kind of said it out loud, which is sort of a taunt to the regime. Like, yeah, we're in Syria. You're going to fight us here? Like, because they want them to sort of ramp up their efforts in Syria to drain their resources so they could fight them there.
I honestly don't want any military operations, like actions. I do like it if Israel, for example, hit IRGC base.
Yeah.
Okay, in Iran. I would love that. But not any like real big operations, and no big operations from Western countries. Western countries just fuck everything up, man.
So the final part of this on the Israeli thing is you have to remember Israel just went through its 27th election in the last 13 days.
I know it's
right, but this, in order for Israel, the way Israel elections work, for those who don't understand it, it's a coalition system. So the winning party gets the most seats. They have the right. The president determines, like the prime minister speaks, but the president looks and says, okay, in this case, Netanyahu's Likud, you have the right to try and form government. So over the next month or so, Netanyahu goes to all the different parties with seats and then negotiate what the government is going to look like. So it doesn't make sense the Israelis would start clandestine inside Iran operations without knowing, okay, who's the foreign secretary going to be? Like, all these high-ranking
everything's up in the air right now.
So they're not going to do anything other than just do the easy thing of striking them in Syria until the government coalesces. But I'm with you. I do think Netanyahu is the best guy for the Iranians right now. The Iranian people, I mean.
Yeah.
Because he
was the first guy who got it that, it's Iranians directly.
Yeah.
He started to write messages in Persian. He started to directly talk to Iranians and write subtitles. And Iranians on Twitter actually responded very positively.
Yeah. And
that's because they realized, we're being, somebody got it. Somebody's seeing us actually.
Yeah.
He's getting it. That no, we're different.
And the Israelis are highly pragmatic, and they spend a lot of the Israelis don't care about the American or Canadian discourse and like Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative. Like, they really don't care about us. Like, they really, really don't care. Like, we're so, like, they think, especially the Jewish community, they think we're just all a bunch of cowards. And like, they're like, we can't, like, you're a headache, real problems. But they're like, our real problems is the Islamic Republic and these lunatics. So they actually do know, and you saw this with Bibi. He like took the time to learn like how to do propaganda, how to troll the regime, how to undermine them, how to like what hurts them, and what helps them.
Yeah.
So I'm optimistic that when the government settles, there'll be a coordinated plan.
Hey man, when I heard it, I was like, hey man, good. Thank God. We'll see.
Can I say something? I strongly think, I have no evidence or nothing. This is just like my intuition.
All right. We're just talking.
Yeah. I feel like these hacking things that are like the national TV get hacked, like these big ones, I feel like that's from Israel. Because like they've had the history of like doing.
I mean, there was a group that.
I think
hacked.
we lost him.
Yeah, that was the IRGC cyber army.
Oh no, they took him down.
They took him down. That's what it was. But I know what you mean. Like, Sia's back.
Am I still here?
You're
Yes,
here again.
yes, you're here.
We lost an entire response.
What happened?
Yeah, we
You
lost.
started talking about the cyber hacking, and then boom, you went
Was
away.
it me?
Yeah.
Oh. So no. There was a cyber group in Iran that said, yeah, we did it. But that group is kind of shady. Nobody really knows.
Yeah.
They have been also, like, they hacked Reza Pahlavi's. It actually could be Israelis. They hacked Reza Pahlavi's phone and like exposed him, all his photos, personal, all the photos of.
Oh no, we lost him.
See, he's gotten too close to the truth.
Yes. And these are like the exciting ones.
But at least it paused on a good frame for him.
Yeah.
That's
Did I get frozen again?
You're back
You
again.
got frozen again. After you're telling us.
I am really sorry. I'll say this quickly. They published his photos online, and it was all him and his wife in very wholesome, nice. Obviously, a man loves his wife. Like, by the beach, but
Feel like,
oh wow, you exposed him. And then I was like, maybe this was on purpose to show, like, oh, he's a nice dude. I don't know.
so like hacking national TV, because that is not connected to like network.
They say somebody should have been inside.
Yes, someone should have been physically inside there. And Israel have done that with like nuclear documentation and things like that.
And some scientist guy.
Yeah. So I feel like that could be Israel.
Yeah, it could be.
It could. I mean,
They did do the Stuxnet thing.
Yeah, I mean, from what I like, the Mossad wouldn't be opposed to hacking Iran's national broadcast to put out anti-regime messaging.
Hey man, Mossad actually took 500 ton of paper, classified paper from Iran, on a truck, loaded it up on a truck and left.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, it just shows how deep the corruption is.
500 ton.
It's more like a comment on the structure of the Islamic Republic, and like,
Yeah.
I mean, I always say,
Dumbass. Like,
Wow,
really?
security.
Like, is that like the most secure system and organization that you have, and they can like easily steal your documentations? Really?
like, it's like the regime runs as a kleptocracy. It's people just stealing the wealth of the country.
Oh yeah,
So
it's just
people like
a
that-
fight over the oil faucet. That's it.
Yeah, those people fighting over money aren't that hard to bribe.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the new generation of the regime's operatives, executives, and whatever, they're not at all in any way like committed to Islam and whatever. They just realize that, okay, this system needs this, and I can provide this.
Yeah.
And I don't have a conscience, so I'm.
Now there are some crazy Islamists who are like,
No, absolutely, but
Yeah, but-
most of them are not.
yeah,
Most of them, their life is on it because all their money, livelihood, everything is on it with the regime.
and those people can be bought.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So I think this was pretty great. Thank you, both of you, for coming. We did an hour and a half here, and happy to do it again.
Oh, wow.
Sia, thank you for coming on. Sana, thanks for giving us your time.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Zionist conspiracy. This wasn't even live. This was just going straight to Mossad headquarters.
Negar is gonna go say that.
No, Negar Mortazavi is a double agent, triple agent. She's a super secret Mossad agent.
Yeah.
But I just got a text from Bibi right now. You both passed.
Cool.
You'll be getting.
Tell them fix my hours. I can't do
Yeah.
weekends. I can't.
You can't do weekends?
No.
Okay. Are you Shomer Shabbos now?
I'm good. I'm good with everything. With
Okay,
anything.
Santa, I'll tell.
Anything that pays.
Sia's Shomer Shabbos. Santa, good for 24/7 round the clock Mossad agent Zionist spy work. So you're on team. You're on the team. I'll be your contact point. And again, everyone in the audience online, the internet is also a Zionist conspiracy, and everyone here is just they're all Israelis here. So. Negar, so thank you for coming. Thank you to Negar Mortazavi for providing us with infinite material. And I will see you both around. Appreciate it coming. And thanks to everyone who.
It was nice meeting you, Sana, and I hope we provided some information.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel, for inviting us.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a